I know nothing of all in all drama more incomparable from the point of view of art, or more suggestive in its subtlety of observation, than Shakespeare's drawing of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. They are Hamlet's college friends, they have been his companions. They bring with them memories of pleasant days together. At the moment when they come across him in the play, he is staggering under the weight of a burden intolerable to one of his temperament. The dead have come armed out of the grave to impose on him a mission at once too great and too mean for him. He is a dreamer, and he is called upon to act. He has the nature of the poet, and he is asked to grapple with the common complexities of cause and effect, with life in its practical realization of which he knows nothing, not with life in its ideal essence of which he knows much. He has no conception of what to do, and his folly is to feign folly. Brutus used madness as a cloak, to conceal the sword of his purpose, the dagger of his will. But to Hamlet, madness is a mere mask for the hiding of weakness. In the making of the mouths and jests, he sees a chance of delay. He keeps playing with action as an artist plays with a theory. He makes himself the spy of his proper actions, and listening to his own words knows them to be but words, words, words. Instead of trying to be the hero of his own history, he seeks to be the spectator of his own tragedy. He disbelieves in everything, including himself, and yet his doubt helps him not, as it comes not from skepticism but from a divided will. Of all this, Guildenstern and Rosencrantz realize nothing. They bow and smirk and smile, and what the one says, the other echoes with sickly iteration. When at last, by means of play within the play, and the puppets in their dalliance, Hamlet catches the conscience of the king, and drives the wretched man in terror from his throne, Guildenstern and Rosencrantz see no more in his conduct than a rather painful breach of court etiquette. That is as far as they can attain to in the contemplation of the spectacle of life with appropriate emotions. They are close to his very secret and know nothing of it, nor would there be any use in telling them. They are the little cups that can hold so much and no more. Towards the close, it is suggested that, caught in a cunning springe set for another, they have met or may meet with a violent and sudden death. But a tragic ending of this kind, though touched by Hamlet's humor with something of the surprise and justice of comedy, is really not for such as they. They never die. Horatio, who in order to report Hamlet and his cause aright to the unsatisfied, absents him from felicity a while, and in this harsh world draws his breath in pain, dies, though not before an audience, and leaves no brother. But Guildenstern and Rosencrantz are as immoral as Angelo and Tartuffe, and should rank with them. They are what modern life has contributed to the antique ideal of friendship. He who writes a new De Amicitia must find a niche for them and praise them in Tusculan prose. They are types fixed for all time. To censure them would show a lack of appreciation. They are merely out of their sphere, that is all. In sublimity of soul there is no contagion. High thoughts and high emotions are by their very existence isolated. What Ophelia herself could not understand was not to be realized by Guildenstern and gentle Rosencrantz, by Rosencrantz and gentle Guildenstern. Of course, I do not propose to compare you. There is a wide difference between you. What with them was chance, with you was choice. Deliberately and by me uninvited, you thrust yourself into my sphere, usurped there a place for which you had neither right nor qualifications, and having by curious persistence and by the rendering of your very presence a part of each separate day, succeeded in absorbing my entire life, could do no better with that life than to break it in pieces. Strange as it may sound to you, it was but natural that you should do so. If one gives to a child a toy too wonderful for its little mind, or too beautiful for its but half awakened eyes, it breaks the toy, if it is wilful. If it is listless, it lets it fall and goes its way to its own companions. So it was with you. Having got hold of my life, you did not know what to do with it. You couldn't have known. It was too wonderful a thing to be in your grasp. You should have let it slip from your hands and gone back to your own companions at their play. But unfortunately, you were wilful, and so you broke it. That, when everything is said, is perhaps the ultimate secret of all that has happened, for secrets are always smaller than their manifestations. By the displacement of an atom, a world may be shaken. And that I may not spare myself any more than you, I will add this, that dangerous to me as my meeting with you was, it was rendered fatal to me by the particular moment in which we met. For you were at that time of life when all that one does is no more than the sowing of a seed, and I was at that time of life when all that one does is no less than the reaping of the harvest. There are some few things more about which I must write to you. The first is about my bankruptcy. I heard some days ago, with great disappointment I admit, that it is too late now for your family to pay your father off, that it would be illegal, and that I must remain in my present painful position for some considerable time to come. It is bitter to me, because I am assured on legal authority that I cannot even publish a book without the permission of the receiver, to whom all the accounts must be submitted. I cannot enter into a contract with the manager of a theater or produce a play without the receipts passing to your father and my few other creditors. I think that even you will admit now that the scheme of scoring off your father by allowing him to make me a bankrupt has not really been the brilliant all-around success you imagined it was going to turn out. It has not been so to me, at any rate, and my feelings of pain and humiliation at my pauperism should have been consulted rather than your own sense of humor, however caustic or unexpected. In point of actual fact, in permitting my bankruptcy as in urging me on to the original trial, you really were placing right into your father's hand, playing right into your father's hands, and doing just what he wanted. Alone and unassisted, he would from the very outset have been powerless. In you, though you did not mean to hold such a horrible office, he always found his chief ally. I am told by Moore Addy in his letter that last summer you really did express on more than one occasion your desire to repay me a little of what I spent on you. As I said to him in my answer, unfortunately I spent on you my art, my life, my name, my place in history, and if your family had all the marvelous things in the world at their command, of what the world holds as marvelous genius, beauty, wealth, high position, and the like, and laid them all at my feet, it would not repay me one tithe of the smallest things that have been taken from me, or one tear of the least tears that I have shed. However, of course everything one does has to be paid for. Even to the bankrupt it is so. You seem to be under the impression that bankruptcy is a convenient means by which a man can avoid paying his debts, a score off his creditors. In fact, it is quite the other way. It is this method by which a man's creditors score off him, if we are to continue your favorite phrase, and by which the law, by the confiscation of all his property, forces him to pay every one of his debts, and if he fails to do so, it leaves him as penniless as the commonest mendicant who stands in an archway or creeps down the road, holding out his hand for the alms, for which in England at any rate he is afraid to ask. The law has taken from me not merely all that I have, my books, furniture, pictures, my copyright in my published works, my copyright in my plays, everything, in fact, from the happy Prince and Lady Windermere's fan down to the stair carpets and door scraper of my house, but also that I am ever going to have. My interest in my marriage settlement, for instance, was sold. Fortunately, I was able to buy it in through my friends. Otherwise, in case my wife died, my two children during my lifetime would be as penniless as myself. My interest in our Irish estate, entailed on me by my own father, will, I suppose, have to go next. I feel very bitterly about its being sold, but I must submit. Your father's 700 pence, or pounds is it, stands in the way, and must be refunded. Even when I am stripped of all I have, and am ever going to have, and am granted a discharge as a hopeless insolvent, I have still got to pay my debts. The Savoy dinners, the clear turtle soup, the luscious ortolans wrapped in their crinkled Sicilian vine leaves, the heavy amber-colored, indeed almost amber-scented champagne. Dagonet 1880, I think, was your favorite wine. All have still to be paid for. The suppers at Willis's, the special cuvée of Perrier-Jouet, reserved always for us, the wonderful pâté, procured directly from Strasbourg, the marvelous fin champagne, served always at the bottom of the great bell-shaped glasses, that its bouquet might be the better savoured by the true epicures of what was really exquisite in life. These cannot be left unpaid, as bad debts of a dishonest client. Even the dainty sleeve links, 4 heart-shaped moonstones of silver mist, girdled by alternate ruby and diamond for their setting, that I designed, and had made at Henry Lewis's as a special little present to you, to celebrate the success of my second comedy. These even, though I believe you sold them for a song a few months afterwards, have to be paid for. I cannot leave the jeweler out of pocket for the presents I gave you, no matter what you did with them, so, even if I get my discharge, you see I still have my debts to pay. And what is true of a bankrupt is true of everyone else in life. For every single thing that is done, someone has to pay, even you yourself, with all your desire for absolute freedom from all duties, your insistence on having everything supplied to you by others, your attempts to reject any claim on your affection or regard or gratitude. Even you will have some day to reflect seriously on what you have done, and try, however unavailingly, to make some attempt at atonement. The fact that you will not be able to do so will be part of your punishment. You can't wash your hands of all responsibility and propose with a shrug or smile to pass on to a new friend and a freshly spread feast. You can't treat all that you have brought upon me as a sentimental reminiscence, to be served up occasionally with the cigarettes and liqueurs, a picturesque background to a modern life of pleasure, like an old tapestry hung in a common inn. It may for the moment have the charm of a new sauce or a fresh vintage, but the scraps of a bouquet grow stale, and the dregs of a bottle are bitter. Either today or tomorrow or someday, you have got to realize it. Otherwise, you may die without having done so, and then what a mean, starved, unimaginative life you would have had. In my letter two more, I have suggested one point of view from which you had better approach the subject as soon as possible. He will tell you what it is. To understand it, you will have to cultivate your imagination. Remember that imagination is the quality that enables one to see things and people in their real as in their ideal relations. If you cannot realize it by yourself, talk to others on the subject. I have had to look at my past face to face. Look at your past face to face. Sit down quietly and consider it. The supreme vice is shallowness. Whatever is realized is right. Talk to your brother about it. Indeed, the proper person to talk to is Percy. Let him read this letter and know all the circumstances of our friendship. When things are clearly put before him, no judgment is better. Had we told him the truth, what a lot would have been saved to me of suffering and disgrace. You remember, I proposed to do so the night you arrived in London from Algiers. You absolutely refused. So when he came in after dinner, we had to play the comedy of your father being an insane man subject to absurd and unaccountable delusions. It was a capital comedy while it lasted. None the less so because Percy took it all quite seriously. Unfortunately, it ended in a very revolting manner. The subject on which I write now is one of its results, and if it be a trouble to you, pray do not forget that it is the deepest of my humiliations, and one I must go through. I have no option, you have none either. The second thing about which I have to speak to you is with regard to the conditions, circumstances, and the place of our meeting when my term of imprisonment is over. From extracts from your letter to Robbie, written in the early summer of last year, I understand that you have sealed up in 2 packages my letters and my presents to you, such at least as remain of either, and are anxious to hand them personally to me. It is of course necessary that they should be given up. You did not understand why I wrote beautiful letters to you, any more than you understood why I gave you beautiful presents. You failed to see that the former were not meant to be published, any more than the latter were meant to be pawned. Besides, they belong to a side of life that is long over, to a friendship that somehow you were unable to appreciate at its proper value. You must look back with wonder now to the days when you had my entire life in your hands. I too look back to them with wonder and with other far different emotions. I am to be released if all goes well with me towards the end of May, and hope to go at once to some little seaside village abroad with Robbie and more 80. The sea, as Euripides says in one of its plays about Iphigenia, washes away the stains and wounds of the world. I hope to be at least a month with my friends, and to gain in their healthful and affectionate company peace and balance and a less troubled heart and a sweeter mood. I have a strange longing for the great simple primeval things such as the sea, to me no less of a mother than the earth. It seems to me that we all look at nature too much and live with her too little. I discern great sanity in the Greek attitude. They never chattered about sunsets or discussed whether the shadows on the grass were really mauve or not, but they saw that the sea was for the swimmer and the sand for the feet of the runner. They loved the trees for the shadow that they cast, and the forest for its silence at noon. The vineyard dresser wreathed his hair with ivy that he might keep off the rays of the sun as he stooped over the young shoots. And for the artist and the athlete, the 2 types that Greece gave us, they plaited into garlands the leaves of the bitter laurel and of the wild parsley, which else had been of no service to man. We call ourselves a utilitarian age, and we do not know the uses of any single thing. We have forgotten that water can cleanse, and fire purify, and that the earth is mother to us all. As a consequence, our art is of the moon and plays with shadows, while Greek art is of the sun and deals directly with things. I feel sure that in elemental forces there is purification, and I want to go back to them and live in their presence. Of course, to one so modern as I am, enfant de mon siècle, merely to look at the world will always be lovely. I tremble with pleasure when I think that on the very day of my leaving prison, both the laburnum and the lilac will be blooming in the gardens, and that I shall see and stir into restless beauty the swaying gold of the one, and make the other toss the pale purple of its plumes, so that all the air shall be Arabia for me. Linnaeus fell on his knees and wept for joy when he saw for the first time the long heath of some English upland made yellow with the tawny aromatic blossoms of the common firs, and I know that for me, to whom flowers are part of desire, there are tears waiting in the petals of some rose. It has always been so with me from my boyhood. There is not a single color hidden away in the chalice of a flower, or the curve of a shell, to which by some subtle sympathy with the very soul of things my nature does not answer. Like Gautier, I have always been one of those pour qui le monde visible existe. Still, I am conscious now that behind all this beauty, satisfying though it be, there is some spirit hidden, of which the painted forms and shapes are but modes of manifestation, and it is with this spirit that I desire to become in harmony. I have grown tired of the articulate utterances of men and things. The mystical in art, the mystical in life, the mystical in nature, this is what I am looking for, and in the great symphonies of music, in the initiation of sorrow, in the depths of the sea, I may find it. It is absolutely necessary for me to find it somewhere. All trials are trials for one's life, just as all sentences are sentences of death, and 3 times have I been tried. The first time I left the box to be arrested, the second time to be led back to the house of detention, the third time to pass into a prison for 2 years. Society as we have constituted it will have no place for me, have none to offer, but nature, whose sweet rains fall on unjust and just alike, will have clefts in the rocks where I may hide, and secret valleys in whose silence I may weep undisturbed. She will hang the night with stars, so that I may walk abroad in the darkness without stumbling, and send the wind over my footprints, so that none may track me to my hurt. She will cleanse me in great waters, and with bitter herbs make me whole. At the end of a month, when June roses are in all their wanton opulence, I will, if I feel able, arrange through Robbie to meet you in some quiet foreign town like Bruges, whose grey houses and green canals and cool still ways had charm for me years ago. From the moment you will have to change your name, the little title of which you were so vain, and indeed it made your name sound like the name of a flower, you will have to surrender if you wish to see me, just as my name, once so musical in the mouth of fame, will have to be abandoned by me in turn. How narrow and mean and inadequate to its burdens of the century of ours. It can give to success its palace of porphyry, but for sorrow and shame it does not keep even a wattled house in which it may dwell. All it can do for me is to bid me alter my name into some other name, where even medievalism would have given me the cowl of the monk, or the face cloth of the leper, behind which I might be at peace. I hope that our meeting will be what a meeting between you and me should be after everything that has occurred. In old days there was always a wide chasm between us, the chasm of achieved art and acquired culture. There is a still wider chasm between us now, the chasm of sorrow. But to humility there is nothing that is impossible, and to love all things are easy. As regards your letter to me in answer to this, it may be as long or as short as you choose. Address the envelope to the Governor H.M. Prison, Reading. Inside, in another and an open envelope, place your own letter to me. If your paper is very thin, do not write on both sides, as it makes it hard for others to read. I have written to you with perfect freedom. You can write to me with the same. What I must know from you is why you have never made any attempt to write to me since the August of the year before last, most especially after in the May of last year, 11 months ago now, you knew and admitted to others you knew how you made me suffer and how I realized it. I waited month after month to hear from you. Even if I had not been waiting, but had shut the doors against you, you should have remembered that no one can possibly shut the doors against love forever. The unjust judge in the Gospels rises up at length to give a just decision because justice comes knocking daily at his door. And at night time, the friend in whose heart there is no real friendship yields at length to his friend because of his importunity. There is no prison in any world into which love cannot force anything, into which love cannot force an entrance. If you did not understand that, you did not understand anything about love at all. Then, let me know all about your article on me for the Mercure de France. I know something about it. You had better quote from it. It is set up in type. Also, let me know the exact terms of your dedication of your poems. If it is in prose, quote the prose. If in verse, quote the verse. I have no doubt that there will be beauty in it. Write to me with the full frankness about yourself, about your life, your friends, your occupations, your books. Tell me about your volume and its reception. Whatever you have to say for yourself, say it without fear. Don't write what you don't mean. That is all. If anything in your letter is false or counterfeit, I shall detect it by the ring at once. It is not for nothing, or to no purpose, that in my lifelong cult of literature I have made myself miser of sound and syllable, no less than Midas of his coinage. Remember also that I have yet to know you. Perhaps we have yet to know each other. Free yourself. For yourself I have but this last thing to say. Do not be afraid of the past. If people tell you that it is irrevocable, do not believe them. The past, the present, and the future are but one moment in the sight of God, in whose sight we should try to live. Time and space, succession and extension are merely accidental conditions of thought. The imagination can transcend them and move in a free sphere of ideal existences. Things also are in their essence what we choose to make them. A thing is according to the mode in which one looks at it, where others, says Blake, see but the dawn coming over the hill, I see the sons of God shouting for joy. What seemed to the world and to myself my future, I lost irretrievably when I let myself be taunted into taking the action against your father. Had I dare say lost it really long before that. What lies before me is my past. I have got to make myself look on that with different eyes, to make the world look on it with different eyes, to make God look on it with different eyes. This I cannot do by ignoring it or slighting it or praising it or denying it. It is only to be done fully by accepting it as an inevitable part of the evolution of my life and character, by bowing my head to everything that I have suffered. How far I am away from the true temper of the soul, this letter in its changing, uncertain moods, its scorn and bitterness, its aspiration and its failures to realize those aspirations, shows you quite clearly. But do not forget in what a terrible school I am sitting at my task, and incomplete, imperfect as I am, yet for me you still may have much to gain. You came to me to learn the pleasure of life and the pleasure of art. Perhaps I am chosen to teach you something much more wonderful, the meaning its sorrow of sorrow and its beauty. Your affectionate friend, Oscar Wilde.